We are called to order the City Council meeting for the City of Statesboro. Today's date is January 19th, 2021. We will have our invocation and pledge of allegiance by Councilmember Sherry Boyd.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Today, at the invitation of the Biden Inauguration Commission, communities across the country sounded bells, church bells, in acknowledgement of the many people who have been lost to COVID among us. And I'd like to take just a moment, not to ring it 66 times, which is the number of people we know of who were diagnosed with COVID and have died here in Bullock County, but just to ring it 3 times as we stop and remember. Many of us know someone, love someone who's been lost to COVID. And then this is the invocation period. And as we all know, invocation is a time when we invoke whatever's highest and best in us to guide us when we're about serious business. Tonight, I'd like our invocation to be a prayer that is attributed to Dr. Martin Luther King, and I'd like to read it. It has been updated for gender neutrality. Pray with me if you will. Oh God, gracious Heavenly Parent, we thank Thee for inspiring women and men in all nations and in all cultures. We call You different names: Allah, Elohim, Jehovah, Brahma, Unmoved Mover, and Good. We know these are all names for one and the same God. We know You are one. Grant, O God, that we follow Thee and become so committed to Thy way and Thy kingdom that we will be able to establish in our lives and in this world a brotherhood, a sisterhood. That we will be able to establish here a kingdom of understanding where women and men will live together as sisters and brothers and will respect the dignity and worth of all humanity. We pray for this in the name and spirit of Jesus and of love. Amen.
Amen.
Yes, indeed.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll move down to agenda item 3, which is public comments. Leah, do we have any comments?
No, Mayor.
Okay, we'll move down to agenda item 4, which is consideration of a motion to approve the consent agenda. Approval of minutes from our council meeting and executive session from January the 5th. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. We'll move down to agenda item 5, which is a second reading and consideration of a motion to approve ordinance 2020-16, an ordinance amending the Statesboro Code of Ordinances, Chapter 18, Article 11, establishing licensing and operational requirements for mobile food service units. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm sorry, are we opening the hearing or we're approving the
A motion to approve ordinance.
ordinance?
Yeah.
Okay.
We got 2 approved. Is there a third, 4?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
No, I was curious, just like Sherry, we didn't open up a public hearing, which is normally what we do during the second reading.
Okay.
But that's all right.
We move down to agenda item 6, consideration of a motion to approve resolution 2021-04, a resolution approving application of a community home investment program grant to the Georgia Department of Community Affairs and commitment of matching funds. Mr. Penny.
Mayor and members of the council, we're asking you for authorization to submit the CHIP grant, which we've been talking about for some time, and the amount of the grant would be $400,000. And we are hopeful that we will be successful in getting this grant, because I think they made a modification this year, where in the past they've done like $600,000 grant awards. However, usually new communities have a little bit more difficult time getting those funds, but they've devised a system for those that haven't been funded in a while. So therefore, I'm hopeful with this 400,000, trying to get us started, we might be successful. Now, as a part of that, we also have to make some commitments with some matching funds. But at the same time, there are some administrative funds that would come as a part of that, about $68,000. And there's an estimate about $136,000 that we need to be able to use a matching fund. There are some in-kind services that you can provide, but we would need, if we receive the funds, we need to be able to, over a 2-year period, be able to fund about $136,000. And so just wanted to make sure that you're aware of that. But
Is it a 33% match? Is that it?
Is that the percentage?
Well, it would be that amount of money plus the in-kind labor. So it's close to a 1-to-1 match, as noted in the memo.
Okay, just curious.
And so we still recommend to you, even though those requirements are there, that you authorize us to be able to submit the grant application. And that's our recommendation to you tonight.
Thank you. Any discussion by council?
Mr. Mayor, if you don't mind, I'd like to ask Kathy to explain it to everyone like she did me. If we get this, what it would actually amount to for the homeowners in the affected area. Can you summarize that for us again, Kathy? I just think it's good information and I want it to be known.
Certainly. Thank you. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, the details of this grant are that we would use the $400,000 for rehabilitation of owner-occupied homes. And we estimate that we can rehabilitate 17 housing units. We would use in-kind services in that we would take partial hours from each of our staff members, plus the addition of the 136,000, which would allow us to bring in some more technical expertise to make sure that we have the capacity to run this program. But the idea is that we would run this program out of the Planning and Development Office.
And then the other part I really liked was the fact it's a grant to the city. The homeowners would be borrowing the money, but then if they were there for 5 years, it would be forgiven?
Yes, that is correct, in that it would be a loan to the homeowner, but if the homeowner stayed in the house for 5 years, the loan would be forgiven. If they stayed for 4 years, it would be the loan would be prorated, and they would have to pay back a partial amount.
Would the payments be deferred the first 5 years, or they make the payments for 5 years and then
It's all deferred.
It's deferred.
Gotcha.
It just depends on how long they stay.
And that's primarily to prevent people from fixing up their house and flipping it.
That's right, that's exactly right.
And the other part of it is what they're trying not to do is to enrich heirs. Because in many cases, you will be rehabbing homes of elderly people, and they may not, and we hope they have a longevity. But what you don't want to have happen is we spend $30,000 on a home, and then the person passes, and then the children come in, sell the property, and then we don't get anything out of it. What would happen is they could sell the property, but there's a deed of trust on the property. We would be reimbursed the amount of money minus it decreases 20% a year. But then that money would come back to us, program income that we can then loan and continue to rehab properties throughout the community. I just think it's really important, and appreciate you asking Ms. Fields to explain this. We have to recognize that a lot of people don't trust these programs. because what they're afraid of is that we will fix their properties and take their properties. That is not what this is about. And I just want to use it since we're on Facebook Live. We want to improve the standard of living in our community, but we are not trying to take their properties. We want them to enjoy their properties, but we want to lift the value of properties in our community, and that is why it's a deferred loan, it's a grant, so that people can get these properties improved, but we're not gonna come in and, even if they were paying money and they ran into a situation and they couldn't pay it anymore, we're not gonna be evicting people. This is to help the community and to help low-income people improve their properties and the standard of living in our community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Kathy, and one more quick question, just to further clarify. Specifically, homeowner owned and occupied properties. This is not rental properties. This is not second homes. This is not investment properties. This is not absentee owner properties. This is, you gotta, if you're gonna get the money, you need to live in that house and you need to be the resident of that house and the owner of that house.
Right, the owner of the house. Eventually, we'll get there, but we don't want to start with those investor-owned properties. Because if you started with investor-owned properties, they would rush in, they would get the money, and the people that own their homes would not take advantage, get the opportunity. But eventually, we do want to be able to get tenant-occupied properties, and then what you use rent controls and things of that nature, so that again, we don't improve the properties, and then the landlord puts the tenant out, and then they rent it to somebody else for a higher rental payment. And so it's a number of things that we can do to protect our citizens. But again, we want to improve the quality of the housing stock in our community, and these funds will help us do that.
Yeah, if you can't pay for your investment property, apparently you didn't make a very good investment.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. We'll move down to agenda item 7, other business from city council. Is there any other business from city council?
I want to commend the mayor and our city manager for working with other local health people trying to make vaccines available to everybody in Bullock County who wants them. And also to Lane and the city for making that information available as quickly as we get it. Follow the City of Statesboro Facebook page or the web page, Facebook's easier, or the Squash the Spread page on Facebook. We're trying to get the information out as quick as it's available about the places where you can get tested and the places where you can get the vaccine. So thank you, Statesboro, for taking it seriously, protecting yourselves and one another, and follow credible sources of authority to keep us all safe. Get us through it.
Anything else from council?
Yeah, well, since you brought that up, Councilmember Barr, what is the status on the vaccine information that we requested last meeting?
I asked Ted when to make that modification, and he's gonna try to get that done. I'll check back with him to see if we can't get that, but I did make the request.
Okay. I just think that, just like Sherry said, I think that's important information to get out. I think we spent 9 months of looking at a number get bigger and bigger. I like to look at a more positive number getting bigger and bigger.
Well, I will say, I was on a call today, and so far in the state, they vaccinated about 400,000 people. It's
Pretty good
a lot.
number.
And I asked a question for Bullock County, because this is with DPH, and they couldn't give me Bullock County by itself, and that's why Ted hasn't been able to modify it, because they haven't been able to do that. And the reason is it's a lot more difficult because DPH is doing vaccinations, but you also have drugstores and you have hospitals and a lot of other folks doing that. So they can give you that larger number, but right now under 1A, there are about 2 million people in the state of Georgia that are eligible. And right now they've done 400,000. But there's some things about to happen that in February, you're gonna see a bigger impact of vaccinations as long as the supply is there. And hopefully we're gonna see the supply ramped up.
Well, and I'll be honest, even that 400,000 number, it would be a welcome number if that's the best number we got. I mean, that's 4% of our population. That's a pretty good start, so.
Well, as Governor Kemp said, the reason Georgia's in the bottom is because a lot of these providers are not in the habit of reporting this information daily. The health department does. They vaccinate people all the time, and they know they have to turn stuff in. But hospitals and doctors' offices and pharmacies are not accustomed to that rapid reporting.
Sure.
So that's kind of why we're lagging behind. The reporting is lagging behind. But more and more vaccines are coming down the pipe, so that's good.
You ready for me? Anything else from council? Okay. I would like to make the announcement that on January 30th of this month, the city of Statesboro has partnered with Feed the Borough. And there will be a food distribution at Statesboro High School. I believe that time is 8 or either 8:30. I'm not exactly sure. But please check our Facebook page so you can see that flyer for that. We definitely want to help as many families as we possibly can. And the date is again January the 30th, and the location is Statesboro High School. We'll move down to city manager comments.
Mayor, members of council, I just wanted to, we send out the information on the utility assistance, and I emailed you today on the rental mortgage assistance. So far, we've had 399 applications, and they've approved 41 of those applications, and we've expended $57,206 out of that $100,000 that you approved. Now, the funding on the utilities, we reduced that by $13,000.
Mhm.
So right now, there's about just under $6,000 that has been expended for the small business grants. I think they approved about $67,000 in grants.
Okay.
And we're gonna be looking at the final $9,000 that was available to award to about 8 more businesses. I did want to say that the testing right now, testing is going to start, I think it's supposed to start tomorrow at Loretta Moore. MACO is going to be doing the testing. They're contracted through DPH to do the testing. And it's supposed to happen 5 days a week and sometimes on Saturday. And so if anybody needs a test, that's where they'll need to go. And I did also just want to mention the council, we're going to be looking for the location for our city council retreat on March the 12th and 13th. And we'll be coming back to council. There are some requirements with the University of Georgia for social distancing and things of that nature that we'll need to look at. But we'll be looking at probably the St. Simons Island area for our city council retreat. And that's all I have.
Okay. All right. With that being said, I do want to kind of piggyback. Those of you that's doing everything you can to keep your family safe against the coronavirus, we definitely want to make sure we're doing that. We recognize that this has been a very difficult time. It's something that we have not seen within our lifetimes. But like I've said many times before, this is something that we're going to get through, and we're going to get through it together. I do want to report to the city of Statesboro that on January the 4th, I tested positive for the coronavirus. I am extremely fortunate that I had very mild symptoms in regards to the virus. And I know that I'm more than thankful to have had those mild symptoms, as we've lost 66 people in our community because of this virus. What I can tell you is that we've taken every precaution. We wore our masks, we washed our hands, but still managed to contract the virus. And what I can tell you, even with mild symptoms, this is something that you do not want to deal with. So please, Statesboro, take every precaution to protect your families, to protect yourselves. And the quickest path back to normalcy is making sure that we adhere to the Center for Disease Control's guidelines and make sure that we continue to listen to the experts in the field. So, moving forward, Statesboro, please protect yourselves, protect your families. With that being said, we'll go to public comments. Are there any public comments at this time? Okay, seeing that there are none, we'll move down to agenda item 10, which is consideration of a motion to enter into executive session to discuss personnel matters in accordance with OCGA 50-14-3B. Is there a motion to enter executive session?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Do we need to say it's personnel?
You already said it.
Thank you.
Yeah.